The crystal chandeliers of Le Jardin cast warm light across white tablecloths as the evening rush begins. This isn't just any restaurant. It's the kind of place where reservations are booked months in advance, where a single meal costs more than most people's rent. The clientele matches the atmosphere. Well-dressed, predominantly white, speaking in hushed tones about stock portfolios and vacation homes. Marcus Williams adjusts his Armani suit jacket as he approaches the mahogany host stand. His wife Sarah, elegant beside him in a midnight blue designer dress. Her medical residency ring catches the light. She's worked 16-hour days for months to afford this anniversary dinner at the city's most exclusive establishment. "Good evening," Marcus says warmly to the blonde hostess, whose smile falters the moment she looks up from her reservation book. "Williams, party of two. We have a 7:30 reservation." The hostess, her nameplate reading Brittany, scans the book with theatrical slowness. Other couples walk past, all white, all immediately seated with warm greetings. A businessman in a wrinkled shirt gets escorted to the best window table without even checking his name. "I'm sorry, I don't see anything under Williams," Brittany says, not bothering to look at them directly. Sarah steps forward, pulling out her phone. "Here's the confirmation email. Reservation 7:30, table for two, anniversary special menu." Brittany barely glances at the screen. "Our system shows no availability tonight. Perhaps you made a mistake about the date?" The condescension drips from her voice like honey from a spoon. A family behind them, parents and teenage children, clearly underdressed compared to Marcus and Sarah, gets seated immediately when the father simply says, "Johnson, party of four." Marcus's jaw tightens, but his voice remains controlled. "Ma'am, I made this reservation 6 weeks ago. I specifically requested the private alcove for our wedding anniversary. Sir, I'm going to need to ask you to step aside. You're holding up our other guests." Brittany's tone has shifted from fake politeness to barely concealed irritation. Around them, other diners are beginning to notice. An older woman with pearls whispers to her husband while staring. A group of young professionals openly pull out their phones, sensing drama brewing. The restaurant's carefully curated atmosphere of exclusivity suddenly feels suffocating. Sarah touches Marcus's arm gently. She recognizes the signs, his shoulders squaring, his breathing becoming more deliberate. She's seen this before. The department store clerk who followed them around. The hotel concierge who questioned their credit card. The 1,000 small cuts that come with existing while black in spaces that weren't designed for them. "Maybe we should just go," she whispers. But Marcus doesn't move. He's thinking about the overtime shifts he worked to save for tonight. About Sarah's exhaustion after her latest 24-hour shift at the hospital. About how she deserves to be treated like the brilliant, accomplished woman she is. "No," he says quietly, his voice carrying a steel edge that makes Brittany step back slightly. "We're not going anywhere." The general manager appears, a thin man in his 50s, with slicked back hair and the kind of fake smile that never reaches the eyes. His nameplate reads, "Richard Thornton, Manager." "Is there a problem here?" Thornton asks, his tone suggesting he already knows which side he's chosen. "These people claim to have a reservation, but we can't find it in the system," Brittany explains, emphasizing "these people," like it leaves a bad taste in her mouth. Thornton looks Marcus and Sarah up and down, his expression shifting from professional courtesy to cold assessment. It doesn't matter that Marcus's suit costs more than most people make in a month. It doesn't matter that Sarah's dress is from a boutique 3 blocks away, where the staff knows her by name. All Thornton sees is what he's been trained to see. "I'm sorry, but if you don't have a valid reservation, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." A hush falls over the nearby tables. The teenage daughter from the Johnson family has her phone out, live streaming to her TikTok. An older gentleman in the corner booth looks uncomfortable but says nothing. The woman with pearls nods approvingly. Sarah pulls out her phone again, her medical school training keeping her calm under pressure. Here's the confirmation. Here's the credit card charge for the deposit. Here's the email chain with your events coordinator about the anniversary cake. Thornton doesn't even look at the evidence. Ma'am, anyone can fake those things. We've had problems with people trying to scam their way into eating here. The accusation hangs in the air like smoke. Marcus's hands clench into fists, then deliberately relax. He's learned over 34 years of life that anger from a black man is never seen as justified. It's seen as dangerous. Problems with what people? Marcus asks quietly. Thornton's smile becomes even more condescending. Look, I'm sure you're nice people, but this is a high-end establishment. We cater to a specific clientele. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the Applebee's down the street. The live stream viewer count on the teenager's phone jumps from dozens to hundreds. Comments pour in? This is insane. Call them out. Is this really happening in 2024? Marcus straightens to his full height. 6'2" of controlled fury, wrapped in Italian wool. When he speaks, his voice carries the quiet authority of someone who's used to boardrooms, conference calls, and making decisions that affect thousands of people. Sir, I'm not leaving this restaurant. The statement lands like a challenge. Thornton's fake smile disappears entirely, replaced by the cold mask of someone who's about to flex what he believes is absolute power. Excuse me? You heard me correctly, Marcus replies, his voice steady, but carrying an undertone that makes several nearby diners look up from their conversations. My wife and I have a confirmed reservation. We've followed every protocol. We've shown you proof, and now you're going to honor that reservation. Brittany scoffs audibly. Sir, you need to check your attitude. This is a family establishment. Sarah steps closer to her husband, not in support, but as a buffer. She's seen Marcus angry before, really angry, and she knows what's building behind those calm eyes. Marcus, maybe we should… No. His interruption is gentle but firm. Sarah, you've worked 18-hour days for 3 months straight. You've saved lives, you've made sacrifices, and you deserve to celebrate our anniversary somewhere that treats you with basic human dignity. The live stream viewer count hits 800. Comments are flowing too fast to read, but the general sentiment is clear. People are outraged. Le Jardin racism starts trending in real time. Thornton signals to someone across the restaurant. Within moments, 2 security guards approach, large men in black suits who clearly specialize in removing problems without causing too much of a scene for the paying customers. Gentlemen, Thornton addresses the security guards while looking straight at Marcus. We have a situation. These individuals are trespassing and refusing to leave. The first security guard, a mountain of a man with arms like tree trunks, steps forward. Sir, I'm going to need you and your lady to exit the premises immediately. On what grounds? Marcus asks, trespassing, disturbing the peace, creating a public nuisance. Thornton rattles off charges like he's reading from a script he's used before. Sarah's medical training kicks in. She starts recording on her own phone, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. For the record, my husband and I have been completely calm and respectful. We've shown proof of our reservation multiple times. Ma'am, turn off that phone, the second security guard demands. Actually, she has every right to record in a public establishment, comes a voice from behind them. Everyone turns to see a young white woman in her 20s, her law school textbook still scattered across her table. I'm a third-year law student at Georgetown. What you're doing here could constitute discrimination based on race, which violates both federal and state civil rights laws. Thornton whirls on her. Miss, this is a private matter. No, it's not. The law student stands up, her voice carrying across the restaurant. This is a public accommodation, which means you're legally required to serve all customers equally regardless of race. What I've witnessed here in the last 10 minutes would make an excellent case study for my civil rights class. The restaurant's atmosphere has completely shifted. What started as quiet, exclusive dining has become a theater of social tension. Some diners are recording openly now. Others are whispering urgently to their companions. A few are hastily asking for their checks. Marcus feels the shift but doesn't move. He's been in boardrooms where million-dollar deals hung in the balance, where careers were made or destroyed with a single decision. He understands power dynamics, and he can sense something changing in his favor. Thornton, however, doubles down. "Sir, you have 60 seconds to leave voluntarily, or these gentlemen will escort you out." "And if we refuse?" Sarah asks, her voice clinical and detached, the same tone she uses when discussing terminal diagnoses with families. "Then we'll call the police and have you arrested for trespassing." The threat lands like a physical blow. Marcus's expression doesn't change, but Sarah sees the slight tightening around his eyes. They both know what calling the police can mean for black men, even innocent ones, even successful ones wearing expensive suits. But Marcus doesn't flinch. "Call them." The words are spoken so quietly that only those nearby can hear them, but they carry absolute certainty. Thornton blinks, clearly expecting fear or compliance. "I'm sorry." "What?" Marcus's voice grows stronger, more commanding. "I said call the police. Call them right now. I want officers here to witness what's happening." Sarah squeezes his hand, a mixture of terror and pride. She knows her husband well enough to recognize when he's calculated the odds and decided to go all in. The law student grins and holds up her phone. "I've already called them. And my professor. And my study group. And about 6 different news outlets." She pauses dramatically. "Oh, and I tagged the restaurant's corporate headquarters on Instagram. They should be getting notifications right about now." As if summoned by her words, Thornton's phone begins buzzing insistently. He glances at it and his face pales visibly. "Thornton," a voice booms from across the restaurant. A man in his 60s, clearly upper management by his bearing and expensive watch, strides over with the kind of urgency that suggests corporate crisis management. "Mr. Davidson," Thornton stammers, "I was just handling a small situation." "Handling?" Davidson looks around at the crowd of recording diners, the trending hashtag now visible on multiple screens, and the very obvious racial dynamics at play. "Richard, my phone hasn't stopped ringing for the past 5 minutes. Do you have any idea what's happening on social media right now?" Marcus watches this exchange with the patience of someone who's spent years learning when to speak and when to let others reveal themselves. He's still holding Sarah's hand, still positioned exactly where he was when this started. But now there's something different in his posture, less defensive, more expectant. Brittany, sensing the power shift, attempts to salvage the situation. "Mr. Davidson, these people don't have a valid reservation. They're trying to cause trouble." "Show me the reservation system," Marcus interrupts calmly. Davidson looks at him with the first hint of genuine attention anyone from the restaurant staff has shown. "I'm sorry?" "Your reservation system. Show it to me. Let's resolve this right now." There's something in Marcus's tone, not arrogance, but absolute confidence, that makes Davidson pause. The way he's speaking, the way he's carrying himself. The expensive watch glinting on his wrist that Davidson now notices costs more than most people's cars. "Richard," Davidson says slowly, "show this gentleman the reservation system." The first crack in the foundation has appeared, as Thornton reluctantly brings up the reservation system on his tablet. Marcus's mind drifts to the journey that brought them here. 15 years ago, he was a kid from Detroit's East Side with nothing but a scholarship to business school and a burning desire to prove that success wasn't determined by zip code or skin color. Sarah caught his eye in the university library, bent over medical textbooks while he studied for his MBA finals. She was already brilliant then, the daughter of a single mother who cleaned offices at night to pay for her daughter's pre-med courses. Their first date had been at a diner that cost $12 total, and Sarah had insisted on splitting the bill. "I pay my own way," she'd said, with the fierce independence that made him fall in love with her. Now she's Dr. Sarah Williams, chief resident in cardiothoracic surgery at Metro General. She's saved more lives in the past year than most people will ever touch. Last month, she performed a 7-hour surgery on a 6-year-old girl, staying on her feet without a break because the child's heart couldn't wait for shift changes. Marcus built his own empire through a combination of ruthless intelligence and careful relationship building. What started as a small consulting firm grew into something much larger, a network of investments, partnerships, and strategic acquisitions that most people would never see coming. They'd planned this anniversary dinner for months, not because they needed validation from an exclusive restaurant, but because Sarah deserved to be celebrated somewhere beautiful after the hell year she'd endured in residency. She'd missed birthdays, holidays, and countless evenings together, all in service of becoming the surgeon she'd dreamed of being since childhood. Marcus had specifically chosen Le Jardin because Sarah mentioned it once, how her attending physician had taken his wife there for their 25th anniversary, how the pictures looked like something from a fairy tale. Marcus made a mental note that night. "When Sarah finishes her residency, we're going there. But this isn't really about dinner reservations or fine dining. It's about the 1,000 small indignities that successful Black professionals face daily. The assumptions, the questioning of credentials, the constant need to prove belonging in spaces that others enter without thought." Marcus thinks about his nephew, Deshaun, brilliant at 17 but already cynical about what the world will offer him. The kid has perfect grades, volunteers at the community center, stays out of trouble, but he's already internalized the message that certain doors will remain closed regardless of his achievements. "Uncle Marcus," Deshaun had said recently, "why do you keep trying to go places where they don't want us?" The question haunted Marcus because he understood the exhaustion behind it, the weariness of constantly having to be twice as good to get half as far. But giving up wasn't an option. Not for him, not for Sarah, and definitely not for the next generation watching their every move. Sarah thinks about her patients, the ones who look at her with surprise when she introduces herself as their surgeon, the families who ask if the real doctor will be coming by later, the colleagues who assume she's a nurse despite her MD and the hospital ID clearly marking her as surgical resident. But she also thinks about 8-year-old Amira, whose successful heart surgery 2 weeks ago was front-page news in the local paper. Amira's parents, recent immigrants from Somalia, had specifically requested the Black Lady Doctor because their daughter had never seen someone who looked like her in a white coat. "She wants to be just like you when she grows up," Amira's mother had whispered through tears of gratitude. That's what's really at stake here in this restaurant. Not just their evening, not just their dignity, but the message being sent to every young Black person watching this unfold online. Are they supposed to accept that certain spaces remain off-limits? That success, education, and wealth still aren't enough to guarantee basic respect? Marcus glances at the live stream, now approaching 1,500 viewers. Among the comments, he spots one that makes his jaw clench. "They should know their place, but there are others. Fight back. Don't let them win. Show them who's boss." This isn't about revenge or proving a point to racist staff members. It's about establishing that excellence doesn't come with color barriers, that his nephew Deshaun deserves to walk into any room with his head held high, that Sarah's future patients will see her as a doctor first, not as a Black woman who somehow managed to sneak into the medical profession. The reservation system loads, and Marcus sees exactly what he expected to see. His name, their table, their anniversary special request, all exactly as Sarah had shown them multiple times. But now comes the real test. Not whether they can get a table, but whether they can change the entire dynamic of what just happened. Davidson stares at the tablet screen, his face growing increasingly pale as he scrolls through the reservation details. Everything is there. The confirmation, the anniversary notation, the special requests, even a note about Sarah's food allergy that Marcus had mentioned when making the booking. "Richard," Davidson's voice carries the deadly quiet tone that executives use right before someone gets fired. "Would you care to explain why Mr. and Mrs. Williams's confirmed reservation appears to be exactly where they said it would be?" Thornton's face cycles through confusion, panic, and then desperate deflection. The system must have. There was a glitch earlier. Sometimes the refresh doesn't. "Stop talking!" Davidson cuts him off. He turns to Marcus and Sarah with the kind of apologetic expression that comes from someone who's just realized he's witnessing a potential lawsuit in real time. "Mr. and Mrs. Williams, I cannot begin to express how deeply sorry I am for this misunderstanding." But Marcus doesn't accept the apology. Instead, he pulls out his own phone and opens his banking app, turning the screen so Davidson can see it clearly. The account balance visible is substantial, the kind of number that makes Davidson's eyebrows rise involuntarily. "This isn't about a misunderstanding," Marcus says calmly. "This is about your staff making assumptions based on the color of our skin, then doubling down on those assumptions even when presented with clear evidence of their error." The law student, still recording, adds her voice to the mix. "Actually, sir, what we witnessed here fits the legal definition of discrimination. Your staff specifically told these customers they should go to Applebee's instead. That's not a reservation error. That's racial profiling." Davidson's phone buzzes again. Then again. The notifications are coming so fast now that the screen doesn't stop lighting up. He glances at it and his face goes ashen. "Sir, if we could perhaps discuss this privately." Davidson begins. "No." Sarah speaks for the first time since the reservation system was revealed, her voice carrying the quiet authority she uses when explaining complex medical procedures to families. "We're not going anywhere private. Everything that needs to be said can be said right here, in front of everyone who witnessed what just happened." The teenager with the live stream whispers excitedly to her phone, "Guys, this is insane. We're at almost 3,000 viewers now." The doctor lady is not playing around. Marcus looks around the restaurant, taking in the crowd of diners who are now openly watching the confrontation unfold. Some look uncomfortable with the tension. Others are clearly enjoying the drama. But a few, including an older black gentleman at the corner table whom Marcus hadn't noticed before, are watching with the careful attention of people who've experienced this themselves. "Mr. Davidson," Marcus says, his voice growing stronger and more commanding, "I need you to understand something very clearly. This isn't going to be resolved with apologies and free dessert. Your establishment has just discriminated against a cardiothoracic surgeon and her husband on their wedding anniversary, in front of hundreds of witnesses and thousands of people online." Davidson nods rapidly. Of course. Please let me comp your entire evening. Private dining room, wine pairings, whatever you need." "You're still not listening," Sarah interrupts, and there's something in her tone that makes everyone in the immediate area go quiet. "You think this is about getting dinner. This is about your staff assuming that two black people couldn't possibly belong in your establishment, then trying to remove us when we insisted on being treated with basic human dignity." Marcus reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a business card. Not his usual cards, but a special one. Heavier stock, embossed lettering. The kind that costs more per card than most people spend on lunch. He hands it to Davidson, who reads it and immediately goes completely still. "Mr. Marcus Williams," Davidson reads aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. "Principal partner, Meridian Capital Group." The name recognition hits Davidson like a physical blow. Marcus watches as the man's face goes through a series of rapid calculations. Net worth estimations, power assessments, potential consequences. But Marcus isn't done. He pulls out a second card, this one even more elegant. Williams Family Foundation, Davidson reads, his hands now visibly shaking. Board of Directors, Metropolitan Hospital Foundation. Sarah adds quietly, that's the foundation that provides scholarships for underprivileged students entering medical school. Last year alone, we funded 43 full scholarships. The security guards, who had been standing ready to physically remove Marcus and Sarah, now look like they'd rather be anywhere else on Earth. Thornton has gone completely silent. The color drained from his face as he realizes the magnitude of what just occurred. Marcus leans forward slightly, his voice dropping to the conversational tone he uses in boardroom negotiations. Mr. Davidson, I want you to think very carefully about what happens next. Because right now, we have a situation where your restaurant has publicly discriminated against customers who happen to have significant influence in this city's business, medical and philanthropic communities. The live stream viewer count hits 5,000. Comments are pouring in from all over the country now, people sharing their own stories of discrimination and expressing outrage at what they're witnessing. Davidson's phone buzzes with what sounds like an emergency call. He glances at it and answers immediately. Yes, sir? He says into the phone, stepping slightly away but not far enough to avoid being overheard. Yes, I am aware of the situation. No, sir. I haven't resolved it yet. What? How many news outlets? Marcus and Sarah exchange a look. They both recognize the signs of a crisis, spiraling beyond anyone's control. Davidson hangs up and returns, his face now completely drained of color. That was corporate headquarters. Apparently, this situation is trending nationally on 3 different social media platforms. We've received calls from CNN, local news stations, and something called the Shade Room. Marcus nods calmly, as if this is exactly what he expected. And what did corporate tell you to do? Whatever it takes to resolve this situation immediately. Sarah steps forward, her medical training helping her remain calm while everyone else panics. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to seat us at the best table in this restaurant. You're going to ensure we receive exemplary service. And then, tomorrow morning, you're going to meet with both of us to discuss how this establishment is going to change its policies and training to ensure this never happens to anyone else. Of course, absolutely. We're not finished, Marcus interrupts. His voice carries a new edge now, the tone of someone who's used to being obeyed without question. Do you know who owns this restaurant, Mr. Davidson? The question hangs in the air like a blade waiting to fall. The parent company is Prestige Hospitality Group, Davidson stammers. Marcus smiles for the first time since entering the restaurant, but it's not a warm expression. Actually, that's about to change. Davidson's confusion is palpable. I'm sorry, what do you mean about to change? Before Marcus can answer, his phone rings. The ringtone is different, a classical piece that cuts through the restaurant's ambient noise like a knife. Marcus glances at the caller ID, and his smile becomes genuinely amused. Excuse me for just a moment, he says, answering the call. Good evening, James. Yes, I'm aware of the situation. Actually, I'm standing in the middle of it right now. The live stream viewer count explodes past 8,000. Comments are flying so fast they're unreadable, but the energy is electric. Someone has started a second hashtag, Counterjustice at Le Jardin. Sarah watches her husband's face as he continues the phone conversation, recognizing the slight shift in his expression that tells her everything she needs to know. This isn't just about their reservation anymore. This is about to become something much bigger. No, James, don't send security yet. Let me handle this my way first, Marcus says into the phone. But yes, activate the legal team and call the PR department. They'll want to get ahead of this story. He hangs up and looks directly at Davidson, whose face has gone from pale to green. Mr. Davidson, that was James Morrison, my chief counsel. He's been monitoring the situation through social media feeds and wanted to discuss our legal options. Marcus's voice is conversational, almost friendly. Apparently, discrimination lawsuits against hospitality companies are quite lucrative these days. The law student practically vibrates with excitement. Oh my God, you guys, he has a chief counsel. This is about to get insane. Davidson's phone rings again. Then Thornton's phone. Then Brittany's. Within 30 seconds, half the restaurant staff is receiving calls from what sounds like very panicked supervisors. Sarah pulls out her own phone and opens Instagram, where she has a modest but engaged following of medical professionals and community advocates. She starts recording a video. Hi everyone, Dr. Sarah Williams here. I'm currently standing in Le Jardin restaurant, where my husband and I have just experienced the most blatant discrimination I've ever encountered. Her voice is calm, professional, devastating in its precision. Despite having confirmed reservations, proof of payment, and behaving with complete respect, we were told we should go to Applebee's instead because we didn't belong at a high-end establishment. She pans the camera to show Marcus, still impeccably dressed and radiating quiet power. Then to the panicking staff members. What these individuals don't yet realize is that my husband isn't just any customer. And what's about to happen next is going to be a master class in consequences. The video goes live to her followers, many of whom are doctors, nurses, and medical professionals across the country. Within minutes, it's being shared by major medical associations, civil rights organizations, and social justice advocates. Marcus's phone buzzes with a text message. He glances at it and shows the screen to Sarah, who has to bite back a laugh. The message reads, "Boss, the restaurant situation is trending on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Legal says we can proceed whenever you're ready." James, Marcus looks up to find Davidson watching him with growing horror. "Mr. Davidson, I think it's time we had a more detailed conversation about ownership structures in the hospitality industry." Davidson's voice comes out as a croak. "Sir, I think there might be some confusion." "No confusion at all." Marcus reaches into his jacket and pulls out a leather portfolio, opening it to reveal documents that make Davidson's eyes widen impossibly further. Meridian Capital Group completed the acquisition of Prestige Hospitality Group 6 weeks ago. The paperwork was finalized last Friday. The restaurant goes dead silent. Even the kitchen noise seems to stop. Sarah adds sweetly, "What my husband is trying to tell you, Mr. Davidson, is that, as of last Friday, he owns this restaurant. He owns the entire chain. The live stream explodes. Viewer count hits 12,000 and climbing. Comments are a mix of celebration, disbelief, and demands for justice. Someone starts a hashtag, a new owner, same table. Thornton looks like he might faint. Brittany has gone completely white. The security guards are edging toward the exit, as if they can somehow escape the situation entirely. Marcus closes the portfolio and looks around the restaurant. With new eyes, not as a customer being discriminated against, but as an owner evaluating his staff's performance. "So, Mr. Davidson," Marcus says conversationally, "how do you think corporate headquarters is going to feel about their new acquisition trending nationally because of a discrimination incident on opening week?" Davidson's phone rings again. This time, when he looks at the caller ID, he actually staggers backward. "That'll be the board of directors," Marcus observes mildly. "I'd answer if I were you." Davidson answers the phone with trembling hands. "Hello?" "Yes, sir." "No, sir, I haven't." "What? How many million people?" Marcus and Sarah exchange another look. They've been married long enough to communicate without words. And right now, they're both thinking the same thing. This has gone far beyond anything they could have anticipated. The teenager with the live stream is practically bouncing with excitement. "You guys, this is literally the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. The black couple owns the restaurant. This is better than any movie." Davidson hangs up the phone and turns to face Marcus with the expression of a man who's just learned he's about to be fed to lions. "Mr. Williams," he begins, his voice shaking. "I had no idea." "Of course you didn't." Marcus's voice carries no anger now, just the cold certainty of absolute power. "Because you didn't bother to look beyond what you assumed about two black people walking into your establishment." Sarah steps forward, her medical training allowing her to remain clinically detached even as she delivers what amounts to a surgical strike. "Mr. Davidson, in the past hour, you've allowed your staff to discriminate against the new owner of this restaurant and his wife. You've threatened to have us arrested. You've suggested we should eat at Applebee's instead. And you've done all of this in front of thousands of witnesses." The older black gentleman from the corner table approaches, his own phone in hand. "Excuse me," he says politely, "but I've been recording this entire interaction for the past 30 minutes. I'm Judge Robert Crawford, and I wanted to make sure there was a legal witness to what I've observed here tonight." Marcus recognizes the name. Immediately, Judge Crawford is one of the most respected civil rights attorneys turned federal judges in the state. His presence here isn't coincidental. "Your Honor," Marcus says respectfully, "I didn't realize you were here tonight." Judge Crawford smiles. "My wife and I come here every month for our date night. But tonight's experience has been quite different from usual." He looks pointedly at Davidson. "I've never seen staff behavior quite this egregious." Sarah realizes something and pulls out her phone again. "Marcus, look at this." She shows him her Instagram story views. 847,000 and climbing. Her video has been reshared by major news outlets, civil rights organizations, and medical associations across the country. "CNN just sent me a DM asking for an interview," she adds quietly. Marcus nods, then turns back to Davidson with the calm authority of someone who's just realized the full scope of his power in this moment. "Mr. Davidson, here's what's going to happen. First, you're going to personally apologize to my wife and me in front of everyone here. Then you're going to apologize to every person who witnessed this discrimination. Then you're going to call every single staff member who participated in this incident into this dining room for a conversation about their future employment." Davidson nods frantically. "Of course, absolutely. Whatever you need." "I'm not finished." Marcus's voice cuts through the babbling like a blade. "Tomorrow morning, you're going to implement mandatory bias training for every employee in this location. Next week, you're going to do the same for every location in the chain. And you're going to establish a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination of any kind." Sarah adds, "We're also going to create a scholarship fund for hospitality workers from underrepresented communities who want to advance into management positions." The live stream viewer count hits 20,000. Local news vans are starting to arrive in the parking lot. Marcus looks around the restaurant one more time, then back at Davidson. "But most importantly, Mr. Davidson, you're going to remember that respect isn't determined by someone's race, and dignity isn't something that requires a credit check." He pauses, letting the words sink in. "Do you understand me?" Davidson nods so hard his neck might snap. "Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Whatever you need, sir." Marcus turns to Sarah and offers her his arm. "Shall we have our anniversary dinner now, Dr. Williams?" 20 minutes later, Marcus and Sarah are seated at the restaurant's most exclusive table, a private alcove with crystal chandeliers and a perfect view of the city skyline. Their server, Maria, is a young Latina woman who approaches with genuine warmth and professionalism. "Mr. and Mrs. Williams, congratulations on your anniversary. It's truly an honor to serve you tonight." The contrast with their earlier treatment couldn't be more stark. But Marcus and Sarah aren't interested in performative service born from fear. They want genuine change. During the first course, Marcus excuses himself and walks back to the main dining area, where Davidson has assembled the entire front-of-house staff. The live stream is still running, now with over 30,000 viewers. "Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus addresses the staff directly, his voice carrying easily across the restaurant. Tonight, you witnessed something that should never happen in any establishment that serves the public. Two customers were discriminated against based solely on the color of their skin. He looks at Thornton and Brittany specifically. Richard, Brittany, you both made assumptions about my wife and me that had nothing to do with our behavior, our credentials, or our character. Those assumptions caused you to treat us as less than human. Thornton attempts to speak. Sir, I never meant— You meant exactly what you did. Marcus cuts him off. But here's what's going to happen now. You both have a choice. You can view tonight as a learning opportunity and commit to doing better. Or you can continue to believe that your assumptions were justified. He pauses, letting the weight of the decision settle. If you choose growth, you'll undergo bias training. You'll work with community organizations to understand the impact of discrimination. And you'll help create policies that ensure no other customer ever experiences what my wife and I experienced tonight. Sarah joins her husband, her presence adding weight to his words. If you choose to remain unchanged, she continues, then your employment here ends tonight. The silence is absolute. The live stream comments have shifted from outrage to anticipation. Everyone is waiting to see how this plays out. Thornton steps forward first. Mr. and Mrs. Williams, I was wrong. Completely wrong. I let my own biases cloud my judgment, and I treated you both terribly. I want to do better. I want to learn. His voice cracks slightly. My daughter watches these live streams. She's going to see how I behaved tonight. I don't want her to be ashamed of her father. Brittany is crying now, but she steps forward as well. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never thought of myself as racist, but what I did tonight was racist. I want to change. Please give me the chance to change. Marcus looks at both of them for a long moment, then nods. Change isn't something you do once. It's something you do every day. But if you're both committed to that work, then you can keep your jobs. He turns to address the entire staff and the live stream audience. Tonight wasn't about revenge or humiliation. It was about accountability and growth. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, regardless of what they look like or where they come from. The applause starts slowly. First from Judge Crawford, then from Maria and several other staff members, then spreading throughout the restaurant. The live stream comments explode with support and celebration. Marcus and Sarah return to their table, where their anniversary dinner awaits. But they both know this evening has become something much more significant than a personal celebration. 3 months later, Le Jardin has become a case study in corporate accountability and social change. The bias training program Marcus and Sarah implemented has been adopted by hospitality companies across the country. The Scholarship Fund for Underrepresented Hospitality Workers has received over $2 million in donations. Thornton completed his training and now leads diversity workshops for new employees. Brittany enrolled in community college courses on African American history and cultural sensitivity. Both still work at Le Jardin, but as fundamentally changed people. The restaurant's Yelp reviews now consistently mention the welcoming atmosphere and exceptional service provided to customers of all backgrounds. Business has actually increased as people seek out establishments that demonstrate genuine commitment to equality. Sarah's Instagram video has been viewed over 5 million times and is used in business schools as an example of how social media can drive immediate corporate accountability. She was invited to speak at the National Medical Association's annual conference about discrimination in professional settings. Marcus used the incident as a catalyst for broader change, requiring all Meridian Capital portfolio companies to undergo comprehensive bias audits and implement inclusive policies. The teenager who live-streamed the original incident, Jessica, received a full scholarship to study journalism. Her coverage of the event launched her career as a social justice reporter. Judge Crawford officiated when Le Jardin received an award. from the local NAACP chapter for corporate, transformation and community engagement. But perhaps the most meaningful change is personal. Marcus's nephew Deshaun, who once asked why they kept trying to go places where they weren't wanted, now says he wants to be just like his uncle. Not because of the money or power, but because of the courage to demand respect and create change. Sometimes justice is served at the finest table in the house. If this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We share real stories of people who refused to accept discrimination and fought back with intelligence, dignity, and power. From boardroom battles to courtroom victories, these are the stories that prove change is possible when we refuse to stay silent. Drop a comment below. Have you ever experienced discrimination at a restaurant or business? How did you handle it? And share this video, because everyone deserves to know that respect isn't negotiable. And sometimes the person you're mistreating might just own the place. Remember, your voice matters. Your story matters. Justice matters.